Come on, what do you do, Ronnie? What do you mean, what I got?
But in the second case, the man bets,
Let's tell
and
him.
then faced with a call,
Well, John, I believe you're bluffing. What do you have?
when challenged, he simply just doesn't move around very much, doesn't blow any smoke. He doesn't even exhale. That's right. So now that you know this, Tell, not only can you make a lot of money, but you can make this player mad. Disappoint any player who, by acting strong, is hoping you'll pass. You know, when I'm in a game, I always look to see if the bettor shows the slightest, minutest signs of disgust, because that tells me something. Like here, that's me. Now here's a whole lot of disgust. This is really disgusting. But what does it mean? Just remember that any time you see a person go out of his way to bet and act miserable or disgusted at the same time, that's never a bluff. It's always a strong hand. Don't call. Disappoint any player who, by acting weak, is seeking your call. You're about to see a very pronounced version of a very common tell that most professionals get wrong. Well, that man in the center looks pretty steady to me, but look what happens to him when he catches this card. Is this a bluff, or is this a big hand? A lot of players used to think, and a lot of books contained false information saying that when a player suddenly looked at a card and started to shake and then bet, he was nervous because he was bluffing. That's not the case. When you see this, even if it's much more subtle, even if it isn't that dramatic, when you see even tiny tremors, let alone tremors like this, and they're sudden, and that man is betting, that is a sudden release of tension because he made a huge hand. Figure this is a straight flush. A trembling bet is a force to be feared. We've learned a lot of things, but you know what we haven't talked about is that this sudden shaking. Remember that? Remember that shaking just like that? Sometimes it's like that, but usually you're going to have a lot of trouble spotting it. Goes more like this. Steady as a rock, steady as a rock. Look at the card. You see it? And not only that, the opponent will try to steady himself, to try to keep himself from shaking. Whenever you see this mild tremor and your opponent is trying to keep himself from shaking, that's a dead giveaway. The friendlier a bettor is, the more apt he is to be bluffing. Okay, you've got this hand. It's not a bad hand. It's not a great hand, but it's a hand you might decide to bet. And so you're looking at it. Well, should you bet or not? See, that's the key secret to profits. It's when to bet. And in this chapter, we're going to discuss some of the things that indicate that a bet is either good or it isn't. And when you know these secrets, you can sometimes bet moderately strong hands with total impunity. And you can know not to bet even stronger hands because you'll just be losing your money. Now, wouldn't that be nice? Sometimes what you're looking for in a tell is not where the hands are pointing, not where the face is headed, but where the eyes are looking. Now I want you to look very closely at this woman's expression. And look at this man. Do you see? You see what's happening in both of these instances? The woman, well, her head's pointed one way, but her eyes are looking another. And the man? Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? Whenever you see this, you know these players are ready to pounce on the pot, and they don't want you to know it.
Raise.
In poker, you've just got to know when you're in danger and when you're not. Is this better in danger this time? You bet he is, because when you see an expression like this, when there's a person ignoring you, looking away, that person is going to pounce and you're going to be raised and you're probably going to lose your money. So why bet? Often the toughest decisions on whether to bet or not don't come when you have a really strong hand or a really weak hand, but when you have a medium strong hand. The man in the foreground is holding a very good hand. Ace is up, but there are 3 diamonds on board. Should he bet in this situation? What about this situation? When you have a hand like this and want to know if it's safe to bet, aces and jacks with 3 diamonds on board, don't bet into this woman because she's looking away and she's going to pounce. She has you beat. But when a woman is staring you down, trying to reach for her chips, she's trying to discourage your bet. That's the time to bet because you'll win. The difference is, in the first case, that's a poor bet. In this case, it's a sure bet. A genuine smile usually means a genuine hand. A forced smile is a bluff. I just can't give you enough examples of when it's safe to bet and when it isn't, because that's half the profit you're ever going to make at Tills.
Cards, please.
The man on the left draws 3 cards, and then the next man draws 1. If you were the man on the left, would it be safe to bet now?
3.
Or would it be safe to bet
1.
now?
Cards, please.
Well, if you have a medium strong hand, then the first bet is very safe.
1.
Why? Because your opponent over here is trying to prevent you from betting. He wouldn't do that if he really wanted you to bet and he had a good hand. But in the second case,
Cards, please.
this bet is not very safe.
3.
It's very dangerous. That's because
1.
your opponent is not trying to prevent your bet. He's trying to show you that your bet is safe by paying no attention to you whatsoever. But he's probably going to, yes he is, he's going to raise. There are a few things more that I want to talk to you about relative to when it's safe to bet and when it isn't. And one overriding concept that you should never forget is that if they won't watch you bet, you probably shouldn't. Another time it's safe to bet is as you reach for your chips to bet, your opponent starts to show his hand over, just like this. See it? See it? Just like that. Here you are over there. You're looking at me, and you're betting into me, but I'm doing this. See? When you see that, you know it's safe to bet. Your opponent is trying to prevent your bet by acting as if he's going to spread something that's important. Well, it isn't. I mean, that's a pair of 6s, and that's what you can expect. So when you see somebody starting to